everyone. On behalf of TiE Coimbatore, TiE Nagpur, and TiE Ahmedabad, I, Swati Agarwal, ED, TiE Coimbatore, extend a warm welcome to all of you to today's session, Impact Speaker Series, Mentoring Session 5 on Digital Transformation for SMEs. A mentoring session to help entrepreneurs adapt to the ever evolving environment. Thank you all for taking time out and being here. I would request you all to please mute yourself at all times. You may ask the panel a question by raising your hand or posting your question in the chat box. Questions will be addressed by our panel at the end of the session. Kindly give us your feedback to provide more valuable sessions in the future. Before we begin, I would like to say a few words about TiE. TiE was founded in 1992 in the Silicon Valley by a group of successful entrepreneurs, corporate executives, and senior professionals with roots in the Indus region. The mission being to foster entrepreneurship globally through mentoring, networking, and education. So let's begin our session. I would like to welcome our speakers, Mr. Atul Anand, Mr. Prashant Subramanian, and Mr. Manu Khera. We have the presidents of 3 chapters with us today. I welcome Mr. Nitin Sachdeva, President TiE Nagpur, Mr. Saurabh Mehta, President TiE Ahmedabad, and Ms. Ranjana Singhal, President TiE Coimbatore, to the session. A warm welcome to all of you, and let's begin. Over to you, Payali.
Thank you, Swati. So let's move forward with the session today. So I'll just little bit talk about the format we are going to have. So what we will do now is invite each of our panelists for their opening remarks on the topic for say 3 to 5 minutes each. So let me begin. I'm pleased to welcome Mr. Atul Anand, a certified digital transformation leader, LinkedIn, Global Skills Development Council, and OpenSAP, and many more, with 15 years of experience in multinational companies. He's completed more than 70 certifications and have received recognition with around 30 plus industry awards. Over to you, sir, for digital transformation processes and the 360-degree view.
Thanks a lot. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Good. So it was like, since you give an opening speech and you say that Tendulkar is coming on just on to bat, right? So it tried to give a high expectation that I have to deliver from the first ball itself. Yeah. Having said that, jokes apart, let me begin. Yes, for sure. As we talk about digital transformation, that's a beast in the boardroom discussions which we have, which all of us have been facing now. And yes, believe me or trust me, it is going to stay. There's no way of going it back. And in few words, if you ask me, across the digital transformation is all about technology, people, processes, culture, and how you are trying to coheed, how you try to coheed all these 4 or 5 building blocks together, right? So how you are trying to change your processes, how you bring the outside in view in the organization, and so on and so forth. That's how digital transformation is going to bring impact in each and every sphere and genre of life, whether it's any kind of industry, whether it's any kind of sector, whether it's government, whether it's a private sector, whether it's NGO, so on and so forth. Yeah. So today we are all sitting at home. We are enjoying these knowledge session, right? Thanks to Zoom, thanks to all, right? So this is all technological disruption which Zoom is providing across, right? And this is one of the live example of how technology is being used and how technology is helping us to drive and move across. Yeah. So these were the few cents of few cents from my side, and yes, absolutely, we will talk about in detail about how digital transformation is helping organization, or rather it's an opportunity, or is it a threat specifically for new entrant, and is it certainly adding well to the customer and the overall ecosystem. Thank you. Over to you, Payali.
Thank you, Mr. Atul. I would like to now invite Mr. Prashant Subramanian, the co-founder and executive director of QuadraSystems.in India Private Limited. He is also the vice chairman of CII, charter member of TiE Coimbatore, and also chairs the TiE Angels Coimbatore. And I'm inviting sir to talk on the future of digital transformation. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Payali. I hope I'm audible.
Yes.
right?
Yes, sir.
That is today. Good morning, good evening has not become the first word you say. It's am I audible? So that's also part of digital transformation. Right. So I thought I will give a bit of context on what is digital transformation. Now, this is something I think which is entered into every single marketing collateral that you can think of. If you buy a UPS, they talk about digital transformation. You buy networking equipment, it's digital transformation. So what is this digital transformation? I mean, is it something real, or is it just some sort of marketing, overkill that unfortunately the IT industry tends to delve in not ever so frequently nowadays? So let me probably give some context so that primes all of you, and then we have an interesting discussion going forward. So to get some context, let's start looking at some data. So if you look at how businesses have been thriving over the years, right? And one of the ways in which you can do it is by analyzing financial data. A good source of financial data is the S&P index, or the Standard & Poor's index, which tracks the top companies in the US and other parts of the world. So this S&P 500, which is an index of the top 500 companies in the US, if you look at this, it's the average lifespan of a company has been coming down with every passing year. What used to be 40, 50 years, which was an average lifespan of a company, is today now shrinking to 10 or 15 years. And it looks like it will go further down. You have companies like Facebook, for instance, which would have probably got into some sort of crisis if not for the well-timed acquisition of Instagram. And even then, with you would have read about this Apple's privacy issue. So even a large new age company like Facebook is starting to face existential threats. So the longevity of every business is actually coming down. Let's look at another data point. The other data point is the fact that it's becoming very, very easy to go ahead and start a new business. Earlier, and especially in a country like India, maybe before liberalization, you know how difficult it was to go ahead and start a business. You needed connects, you needed influence, and you needed to know how to get your way around in the government system. Today, if you want to be an entrepreneur, and India, I think, has been proving this in 2021, especially with 10, 13 unicorns already listed so far. All you need is probably a good idea and access to cloud technologies to make your dreams come true. So it means that competition for existing businesses is increasing day by day. So it's not easy to stay in business. Why? Because competition for new businesses, competition is increasing, because new businesses are coming up, and because business models are changing. Because customer expectations are changing, consumer expectations are changing. The way we want businesses to work, or the way we want businesses to deliver services to us, is completely changing. I'll just talk for a minute more on a concept which I think will interest everybody. So there's this concept called unbundling. What is unbundling? A large business is not going to be attacked by another large business. Instead, one large business is going to be attacked by several smaller businesses. Now think of a piranha, right? And how it can take down a larger animal simply because it nibbles away at one. It's like a death by 1,000 cuts. So if you take an iconic business like a large bank, for instance, no, it's not like State Bank of India is going to face competition from another State Bank of India. It's going to face competition from the likes of smaller, nimble digital players like Paytm, or like Chargebee, or any of these digital cash companies that are emerging, because they nibble away at certain elements of what State Bank does 1,000 things. These small companies do 2 things very well, or 1 thing very well, and there are 1,000 such companies that are emerging. Much more easier to do business with consumers rather than to go ahead and do business with one large entity which is struggling to preserve their existing business models, stick to their old ways of working, and not go ahead and adapt to new models, because that's the inherent problem with any existing established business. They don't want to let go of an existing cash flow. So with that context, I will stop for now, and then we'll probably have a little more insightful discussions later on. Thank you, Piali.
Thank you, sir. With this, I move on to our next panelist, He is TiE charter member of Ahmedabad, founder and CEO of Big Bang Innovations. Mr. Manu Khera has spent more than 2 decades in software development, e-commerce, mobile value-added services, and has also worked as senior management with Reliance Communication. Currently, he is focused on enterprise mobility applications, which can be scaled globally. Mr. Manu is going to talk about on the topic digital transformation, impact on the top line of an enterprise. Over to you, Mr. Manu Khera.
Yeah, thanks, Piali, and good evening, everyone. Just to briefly introduce myself, my company, Big Bang Innovations, we have a platform for automation of sales, CRM, as well as HRMS, with specific focus on SMEs. So we have an integrated platform which allows the enterprise to digitize all their key operations outside their ERP. Now, let's look at it from the SME point of view. See, SME runs on 4 key pillars or 4 wheels of the car, as we call them. One is your manufacturing or service delivery. See, even a trading operation, they are a service delivery. They are delivering some service to their customers. So I call them a service delivery. The second key operation is their finance. Third is sales, and fourth is CRM. So any SME you look, these are the 4 pillars on which they rest. The rest are maybe not so important functions for a SME. For SME being small, HR is not their key function. Now, out of this, the ERPs today is addressing their finance and core manufacturing or service delivery. But very few SMEs have opted for a kind of a integrated solution for their sales and CRM processes. And by and large, they remain undigitized. So the core problem we are addressing is that SMEs today run on non-digitized sales and CRM operations. And that is where the big challenge lies, because they are used to running this in a very manual way. And that is where we contribute, or we strive to contribute to their top line by kind of digitization of their sales and CRM processes. So sales is where the most critical organization in any company, because they are the guys who bring in the cash. They are the guys who pay the salary of the entire company. They are the guys who keep the 4 wheels running. So the importance of sale cannot be, underrated. And here what we strive is how to increase the productivity per sales person and thereby contribute to the top line. Now, CRM is where the key objective of CRM is how to retain a customer, how to get repeat business from a customer, how to get referrals from a customer. And that again is the core of any organization. And you measure that by CSAT scores, NPS scores, and so on. Now, traditionally, the way sales is handled in any organization is, using the typical bamboo method of management, where the CEO will bamboo the sales head will bamboo the branch head will bamboo the ASM will, finally that bamboo reaches to the last man on the road. And that's how they run. And that's how the organization kind of achieves its target. And highly output driven management, where you just give a target to the sales guy and end of the month you see, is the target achieved kiya ke nahi? That's how the management looks at it. So effectively, it's a black hole. What happens behind that target, very little visibility is there within the organization. So a platform like ours, it addresses this issue, that sales should become a very transparent process, a fully digitized process where every interaction is captured. See, every meeting, a typical salesperson spends at least 5 hours a day meeting his customer. And each day he meets at least 5 to 10 customers. Each meeting, there are at least 5 to 10 key points which are which can be digitized. It can be a feedback about his product. It can be information about competition. It can be, let's say, a simple pricing issue. It can be product quality issue. So it could be generally a profiling information about his customer. What are the needs of his customer? So there are such diverse inputs which get captured. So if he meets 5 customers a day and he he gathers at least 50 inputs in a day. And over a month, that is almost 1,000 inputs. And now imagine if there are 100 salespeople. So you have about 1 lakh inputs. Now, traditionally, these 1 lakh inputs don't get captured anywhere. And the organization is losing all that information. So a platform like this is where every input is captured, and it is then collated, analyzed, and corrective actions are taken based on this kind of inputs. Second problem is when a person leaves, all the information about the customer, about the insights of the market also go along with them. So a platform like this, where all this history is stored, makes it very easy for a new person to take over. So these are the kind of insights, and these are the kind of value additions a platform like this brings to the CRM and the sales processes of a SME. And I think this is, as far as SME transformation is concerned, I think this is absolutely the key area which burning problem with every SME today wants to fix. And so we are that way at the front of this transformation, where we are daily engaging with large number of SMEs, understanding their problems, understanding how we can impact their top line and the bottom line. So that's what digital transformation for us is, making a difference to the core of the organization. Yeah, thanks, Piali.
Thank you, Manu. So thank you everyone for all the insights, views, and the interesting aspects of the digital transformation from an SME point of view. Moving further now, I am delighted to welcome our presidents from the 3 chapters who will now moderate the 3 parts of the session. So I begin with the first one. I'm inviting Mr. Nitin Sachdeva, the president of the Nagpur chapter, and he will be in conversation with Mr. Atul Anand. Over to you, Mr. Nitin.
Hey, thank you so much, Piali. It's an honor to be here with this gathering here today. It's really a great achievement for all of us with digital transformation impacting our lives on a daily basis. We are able to survive and meet and greet each other and still continue working. So with this, I welcome Atul here. The topic for discussion is divided into 3 parts. So first has been designated to me. It's for technology, processes, and a 360-degree view regarding the digital transformation era. So Atul, I see a great smile on your face. Yeah. I'll start with a little distinction basically about you. Although everyone knows you personally and in the LinkedIn arena and a lot of stuff that you are doing all across the board, but you are an active volunteer at Art of Living as well. Yeah. So how do you correlate digital transformation?
Absolutely. So that is absolutely a great question for sure. So if you see Art of Living as an organization, as an NGO, as a spiritual body, right? They work with the intent to spread happiness and smile across, right? Same is the intent of technology. So technology is meant for, bringing and connecting the dots. So we, all of us are different dots, right? Now all of us are connected. We are all sitting in different parts of the country, virtually connected through technology. Hence, same thread of digital transformation or technology is bringing all of us together and helping us drive with a common purpose of being happy and being contented in this complex in this highly VUCA world, which is highly volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, right? So Art of Living also provides the same aim, and same is of technology, which is running the core and acting as a foundation or acting as a backbone for driving us all together. Yeah, but
thanks.
Very well crafted this question for sure. Yes, thanks.
So with the same background, I would like to know what is the role that technology or disruption plays in this aspect of digital transformation for any organization.
Certainly, that's a good question for sure. So I was few years back, almost 10 years back, when I was starting with this journey post my MBA days, And I was, I was reading those case studies of John Chambers, who was like, CEO at that point in time for Cisco. And I was reading some of his statement now, right? So he makes a statement that 40% of the business will be obsolete in another 3 years of time if they don't change themselves. See, that itself is such a big figures, right? So if you are not able to change yourself, if you're not keeping yourself abreast on the current scenario, you're going to change, right? Or you're going to be obsolete, right? So, and as we see, COVID was such a great opportunity, or maybe I say threat, where an organization who themselves was not prepared to handle this kind of unforeseen circumstances, right? So some of them were on the verge of collapse, some of them have collapsed, some of them have regained and revived and resurvived as an albatross, right? So for sure, technology is one of the key enablers. So if you see a few technologies such as blockchain, technologies such as AI, ML, technologies such as IoTs, technologies such as cloud, right? So these are the few key enablers which are acting for bringing all the businesses together. So if you see nowadays, in each and every organization, everyone is moving and rapidly running behind onto cloud, right? Whether it's Azures of the world, whether it's AWSs of the world, whether it's the GCPs of the world, there are various cloud service providers, even in India, who are pitching in those solutions to CIOs and CFOs of organization, right? Because it's cloud which is giving them the complete mobility. It's helping them to cut down their capex, and then all of the things are now being transformed into OPEX, right? So there's a new term called ProPEX, right, which is project OPEX. So people are now focusing on how you can cut down the cost, which is the the running cost, and how you can do everything as pay as you go, right? So it's more of a mentality of consumer driven, and having that experience, customer experience, how you can enhance those things. And then obviously these technologies are enabling and helping them across, right? So if you see the technology stack, so you have system of engagement, system of records, and system of insights. So if you say system of engagements, so we have few of the technology which is helping organization to get the insights, like the mobile apps which are being built across, right? So they are all smart apps now. All these mobile apps are built on 4th generation programming languages, which helps you to get the insights of the consumers and so on and so forth. Same is the system of engagement, right? Which is you are using your AI, ML, and so on and so forth for getting the insights of the customer. What is the what is the pattern of users browsing through their mobile apps, or what are the functionality they are using across. And same is the system of records. So you are using big data, Hadoop, so on and so forth, for making the structured approach of the data which is being now used across. So yes, for sure, technology is the key. And now each and every organization, whatsoever business you do, it is a technology driven organization, whether it's the Facebooks of the world, whether it's the Ola, Ubers. And as we heard previously as well, right? All these new unicorns are coming up, right? Even the college student, he's coming up with the new idea, and then he is giving a competition to Microsofts of the world, Googles of the world, right? And they are all either trying to acquire those new initiatives, so that in future they don't become a competitor of Google's or Microsoft's world. Yeah, for sure, technology is there, and it is going to stay for sure. Yes.
Perfect. This is a very on to the point answer, and it covers a lot of aspects which people need to understand the transformation journey. So for various organizations, what is the role that you see for the transformation which the digital transformation brings in towards value creation for the organization? And is this a one-time affair, or should it be an ongoing one?
That's a good question. So people say that so let me start, or people say that let me start adopting a new technology, and then will I be safe and secure? Will I be able to get a breather across? Boss, it is never being that case, right? It is a marathon which you keep on running, and a marathon which you need to run in sprints, right? So it is a combination of sprints and marathon. But then yes, you need to start small, get some successes done across, and then start moving across and making it all through, right? So the kind of roles which now organizations are having is, people are having more flatter organization roles, such as the chief data officer, roles such as digital transformation officer, roles such as data scientist, roles such as consumer analyst, roles such as, there are plethora of role which is coming up. The traditional roles of service delivery management, the ITL management, those roles are now getting wiped off, and the newer and different kind of roles are getting created across. And then the key is the continuous learning, right? So if you are keeping yourself abreast, if you are keeping your skills up to the up to the mark, then only you can survive, right? People say me like, after doing your MBA, why, after doing your MBA from SPG, and why you went ahead with your course, for the foundation from IIM Kolkata, and why have been you certifying, reskilling yourself, right? So I always say it is a journey, right? You need to learn, unlearn, and then relearn, right? If you don't go and fit into that journey, you are going to get obsolete, right? So you need not to be fuzzy about the roles which you are doing, but then the focus should be on the value, right? Whatsoever transaction, whatsoever action you are doing, is it actually defining, or is it giving any value to the consumer or the customer to whom you are serving, right? If you work with that intent, then certainly you are going to stay there. And it is a continuous process. You need to certainly evolve, and you need to keep yourself regularly updated, and you need to keep yourself regularly with a change mindset, right? If those things are there, then certainly you can be protected. It cannot be a one-time effort. It has to be a regular efforts, for sure. Yes.
Thanks for sharing the importance of roles. And in the same way, how important is the role of processes in digital transformation? And any advice about the new age processes that you feel are important and the organization should adopt them?
That's a good question. So as I defined initially, right? So digital transformation is all about technology, people, processes, and how you are able to bring the impact in the organization, right? So for sure, processes are, as I mentioned, they are the kind of glues, right? They are the kind of pointers which help different entities get together, and which helps them to be repeated in the way they carry out their activities, right? So now the processes which we follow, right, whether it is, say, DevOps processes, whether it's an agile process, whether it's a the project management processes, whatever you have to do, right? So those processes have to be built with the intent that they are iterative. There have to be smaller cycles, right? You need to be talking to consumer as soon as you are getting their requirements. You need to go to them. You need to be talking to them in every 15 days, right? So gone are those days of waterfall model when you used to get a requirement from the consumer, and then after 1 year you used to go and show them those products, right? Gone are those days. And that's the reason why people say, Gartners of the world, they say that 70% of the IT projects, 70%, can you imagine? We spend billions of dollars on those projects, and 70% of those projects goes for a drain. People don't use those functionality. Why? Because you go and talk to the consumer, you go and talk to the customer once in a year, and then after 1.5 years, you go and talk to them. They say that, boss, my requirement has now changed, right? So all the money which you have spent as an IT organization, as a service provider organization, as a business organization, it goes for a toss, right? There are concepts of shadow IDs being pop up, right? There's a concept of watermelon effect, right? It all look great green from the top, but then when you dissect deep into those SLAs or services, it is all red, it is all bleeding, right? Watermelon effect is prevalent. So all these things are being worked upon, all these things have to be looked upon, and hence processes play a great role, right? So your processes have to be fit for the purpose. Anything which is required, keep it. Anything which is not required, which is bureaucratic, just get rid of it. Just move out of it, because it is not adding value, right? So your intent should be, is any action, any task which you are doing, is it adding value to my consumer? Is it going to get any kind of outcome based approach, or is it making any of those transactions easier for them? If it is, just go and imbibe them, go and embrace them. Otherwise, just get rid of them, right? So as I mentioned, agile is one of the way. Agile thinking, lean, Kanban, so on and so forth. So these are the new ways of working, in your organization, and we should be embracive of this, embracive of it, right? Your traditional processes, maybe say ITL and so on and so forth, they need to be, for sure, be evolving, and that's how we need to be changing, with time, for sure. Yeah.
Great, very valid input here, because agility is the key to success these days. And in the same lines, we say everything is turning towards software, and it's all about information technology these days. So are there still any sectors that are immune to the old processes, and the digital transformation could not be adopted there? Or everyone has to adopt it sooner or later?
So it's like that's a good question, I must say. So it's like, can we get ourselves immune to COVID? And again, it might be a controversial question, but then somewhere, someday, somewhere, we need to all face it, right? That's a true reality. Same is with digital transformation, right? So there were few organizations which were certainly in time were immune, but then now, if you see, every organization have to undergo it, right? Why? First and foremost is your business scenarios are changing, right? The place where you are working, it's changing. The kind of people who you are interacting with, they are changing, right? Now we are interacting with Gen Z organization who want us, who want the results right now. They live in the present moment. They want things to be done right now, right? So if you see, the whole setup is being changed across all the stakeholders you are mapping, they are being, they are being changed upon. You need to think it from the all complete 360 perspective, right? So you need to ensure that whatever is your industry, whatever is your ways of working, it will and it have to change. You cannot survive. Previously people were thinking, I am working in oil and gas industry, I am immune to it because there's hardly any kind of changes which is happening. But then with newer technology which is coming up, right, each and every sector have to undergo the changes and transformation, right? Whether it's banking and finance, whether it's a consumer IT, whether it's FMCG, whether it is IT, whether it's like manufacturing, whether it's anything, banking and finance, anything and everything, it has to go through a process. Although there are different rates of adoption for sure, some of them have to be for sure faster, and some of them are relatively slower for sure. But then everyone have that kind of mindset that change is the only inevitable aspect, and we have to undergo this, right? And you cannot stop yourself from being that. Yeah, innovation is the key. Focus on the future, how you can shorten your execution to strategy to execution cycle, how you can co-create with your customers, so and so forth. Yeah, how you can make yourself so nimble that your processes and everything is so so fast to adopt to those changes. Yeah, so these are the few key things and key enablers for but then it is going to impact each and every nook and corner of this world for sure. Yes,
absolutely. These are real great inputs and insights that you are sharing from your personal experiences, and you have been associated with a lot of management. So any advice out of your personal experience that you would like to share about the type of boardroom discussions which occur while managing the digital transformation, and key approach any organization that would use?
Yeah, so that's a good point, right? So whenever we are all talking, right? So previously CIOs of the world, right? They were all given few things. So discussion used to happen in board, wherein strategy used to be created, and then those things used to be given across to CIO for execution. Now CIOs of the world, they are a part of the board, right? They are the people who have the say in the board, right? They are the people who are also thinking of how the value creation happen, right? So value creation from the consumer and value creation to the end customer side, right? So the CIOs of the world have now been given that seat in the board, wherein the discussion is happening across, right? So as I mentioned, whatever we are talking, right, it has to be focused on the value. Whatever we are talking, it has to be time driven. It has to be realistic in approach, right? It has to be thought from the enterprise level, right? So how you can make your tools, how you can make your processes, how you can make your service management approach at the enterprise level. And then now we are all working in virtualized world, right? Security is the key, right? How we can secure all of them, right? If you cannot secure any of your technology, then obviously anything and everything which you are doing, it will go for a drains, right? So you need to ensure every transaction which you are doing, whether it is a organization to organization transaction, whether it is a B2C, whether it is B2B, any kind of transaction, it has to be secure for sure. And then believe me and trust me, hackers, they are 2 steps ahead of technology for sure. So we need to have that kind of mindset. And for sure, if you are driven with the value driven mindset, things become relatively more easy, and how you can improve the overall experience of the end user and consumer. So with these thoughts in, and clarity of usage of technology in mind, we can always be thinking of adding value to the end users or customers. Yes.
Great. Thank you so much, Anand. We'll leave you here and come back to you with the participant question at the end.
Yeah.
So with this, I hand over to President Ranjana Singhal, President Coimbatore, to take the second part with Mr. Prashant Subramaniam. Over to you, Ranjana.
Thank you, Mrs.
Thanks, Nitin. Thank you, Atul. You shared the knowledge, what is important and very relevant for today's time. A big thank you to you. I'm sure audience must have a lot of takeaway for the audience today. Over to Prashant now. Hi, Prashant, once again. Prashant is a very dear friend and a fellow charter member. To share a line about him, to his company's credit, they have 30+ national awards on technology innovation. In fact, towards the end, I would like him to share his journey also briefly. But before that, let me ask some question, Prashant. How do you foresee the future in digitalization?
Okay. So it's like this, Ranjana. So when you ask me that question, I want to reply to you with a quote. And the quote is from Alvin Toffler, and he says, "The future is already here. It's just that it's not evenly distributed yet." And I'll give you an example right from this meeting. I don't know how many of you noticed that there is one of the attendees is Fireflies.ai, right? I'm not sure how many of you noticed, but Fireflies.ai just got $14 million in funding just now from Khosla Ventures. It's an Indian, Krish, along with another co-founder. And what they're doing right now is they're transforming the future of note-taking. So when you have a meeting like this, if you want to go ahead and take down notes for the meeting, this tool does it for you automatically, right? So there are so many new technologies that are coming out in each and every, some of them we notice, some of them we don't, and some of them are very, very subtle. For instance, if you're processing a credit card transaction, you are now getting a better quality of fraud alerts. The other way around, if all our income tax returns are now being processed with the most advanced data analytics, so they are able to spot inaccuracies, or they are able to spot anomalies in a way that's faster than any human could possibly do. So there is tech that is apparent to our eyes, or visible to our eyes, and there is tech that's invisible, but it is actually changing our lives silently. So the phones that you hold in your hand, or the computers that we work with, I think these are all great examples. But then when we talk about future, I think that we should also understand that it is just not about going ahead and deploying new technologies. Just by saying that, so there's this typical thing that, okay, so you heard this craze about cryptocurrency and all the associated drama that's happening with it right now. You have people with how many of you seen the memes where people have these laser eyes? So those are all part of the cryptocurrency meme. Or you have things like NFTs, non-fungible tokens, where people are selling a digital image and then making hundreds of millions of dollars for it. So the point is, it's just not about mindless adoption of technology. Technology starts becoming useful for any business only when it is resolving a specific business problem for them. So there is technology deployment, which is not just saying that, okay, my insurance company also uses blockchain. The second thing is technology adoption, where you start using technology. For instance, let's say, I'm sure all of us use simple software like MS Word or Excel, but how many of us really know how to use the advanced features, or how to use the software in the way that the makers of the software intended us to? And the third is, what is most important, is technology absorption. So you go from deployment to adoption to absorption. And when you absorb technology into each and every aspect of your business process, that is when digital transformation happens, and that's when the future starts coming to life for each and every business. So yes, look out for new and emerging technologies that are up and coming. But I would also say, have you done a good enough job of deploying the tech or using the tech that you already have with you? So the future lies not just in deploying the latest and the greatest, it lies in utilizing technology, the technology absorption. I would say the future lies in technology absorption. If you can do that for your business, then your business is headed for a good place in the future.
Thanks, Prashant. But my one which I want to know is the pace. How do you deal with this pace of technology changing so swiftly that how do you manage to match up with that pace? Like, for example, you are in the same industry, so for you it's fine. A person who is not from there and has a challenge understand the technology, how do you bridge the gap?
Yeah.
That's it.
Absolutely. No, so the way I would look at this is, again, keep your eyes and ears to the ground. Monitor your customers and your partners in your industry very, very closely. That's the biggest signal. Now, technology is an enabler here, right? This can easily be given to a trusted technology partner. What's important for you as a business owner is the fact that are you listening closely to the internal as well as external factors for your business? I mean, are you listening well to your customers? How are their tastes evolving, changing? What are the needs and demands? How's competition doing? What are external market forces that are acting which can potentially impact the way that you do your business? So I would say for any business owner, that is what you should be focused on and not worry too much about the pace of technology change. Because if you really look at technology, sometimes we go into cycle. It's like fashion, right? What was fashionable 30 years back is probably now going to come back as a new and slightly modified version, saying that yeah, this is the trend right now. And we've seen so many of these fashion cycles repeating. Tech in that way essentially reinvents itself. The fundamental concepts remain the same. The names and the buzzwords can change and can confuse people, but what doesn't change is the way that business happens. So there's this book, I forget the name of the author. This person has condensed all the business models into the world into just 30 models. Every business in the world can be explained in these 30 models. So the fundamentals of your business, listening to internal and external forces, I would say, are the most important. Tech can always, and then you know what to ask from tech. Too often people say, I want to deploy this technology, I want to deploy that technology. That's absolutely the wrong way to go. This is my business need and I want to do this in a faster and a more efficient way. And now I need tech to do it. Now that's somebody else's job. There are enough technology players in the market, big and small, to do that for you, but they don't understand your business. No technology consultant can come to you, spend 24 hours with you and say that I understand your business better than you do and say I can transform your business. No, transformation has to happen from you. The direction has to happen from you. The execution in terms of the technology stack can happen from a technology player. So I would say for those of you who are not into the technology business, please don't be overwhelmed by the mind-numbing change that we see. It's got absolutely nothing. I mean, you're not losing out on anything by not being up to date on all those things. Focus on your business. Stay tuned to your customers and to your industry, and you will be good.
Thanks, Prashant. I like the comparison between fashion and the pace of technology. Quite interesting, Okay, tell me what tools are going to be available to an enterprise in the near future when we talk about technology.
So again, it goes back to my part of my earlier answer. There are a whole bunch of tools, and some of these things are transforming the way enterprises work. So you have earlier you used to do coding, right? I mean, if you look at how programming evolved, the earliest programming was done using low-level language like machine language or assembly language, which was arcane and impossible for and for anybody except the topmost programmers to even do something. And then you had higher level languages, like all the C, C++, and you had easier, more visual languages like Visual Basic and other things come. Now the trend is low code, which means you don't need to do any coding. You don't need to be a programmer. So you as a business owner can write an application without knowing a single line of code. So you're going from low code to no code. And if you look at the latest innovations that are coming out, it is code that you can speak to. You can literally talk to a computer, and this is not futuristic. These are things that are available today, and then have it create an app for you. So there is this thing called OpenGPT, and using those models, players like Microsoft have just announced that Build. Those of you who are in the tech industry will know that MS Build is happening right now. They are now getting conversational code out. So the things that are happening are amazing. So and on the topic of conversations, it can transform the way you do customer service. by going ahead and replacing typical customer service or routine customer service with automated bots or chat agents. Most of us are probably talk to a chat agent, but you don't even know that you did it, right? Some of them are good, some of them are bad, and you realize that you're not talking to a human being. There are technologies, such as which are a little more out in the future, not yet there in mainstream, like quantum computing, which brings enormous computing power. If we think that today's computers are very powerful, then quantum computers will make the fastest and the most powerful computers of today look like in 1975 calculators, literally, or even worse than that. That is how drastic the change is going to be. And that kind of computing power comes, then things like AI will transform. Today, AI is evolving, but the limitations will truly be unlocked when you have immense power like quantum computing comes. So the point I'm trying to say is, it's easy to get lost in all this tech jargon, right? But the future is very, very clear. The future, we are going to a place where there is going to be less and less of hardcore tech input available. Technology will get democratized, will get so easy to use for anybody, and you don't need to be a tech expert to leverage technology for your business. Just look at the PCs, right? At one point in time, if you look at a typical PC, those old IBM PC XT80s, they were costing several lakhs. They used to, maybe if you take a city like Coimbatore, Ranjana, maybe 5 or 10 businesses had those PCs, and they used it for very straight-jacketed tasks. Today, everybody has a PC or some sort of computing device. It's democratized, right? Everybody has a smartphone, which is probably more as powerful as your PC. It's democratized. So the advancement in technologies will further democratize tech and make it accessible to each and every individual or each and every business. So what does that mean for you? If you are not able to apply that or connect the dots between your business and the technology well enough, then you're going to be left out. So that again goes back to my earlier point on being focused on your business. Technology will take care of it. So we can keep going on new tech, but that's jargon laden. And we will get into, there are hundreds of things that we can talk about, but I would rather try to restrict my answer on these lines.
Yeah, actually, you're right. And Atul also mentioned that technology is a way forward. We can't, otherwise we'll be left behind. We can't be living in the past and things will get better on its own. But if things are changing, we have to be agile there too.
Great.
Your input is very valid there. There's another concern also there at the same time. Is the threat real for human employment in a digital world?
Yeah, I know. I can totally relate to that. But especially from somebody who's in the tech industry, I can totally understand what outsiders perceive. The way tech industry is going to change things. What is going to happen is the way you do work or the type of work that you do is going to change. Some of the, I haven't seen this, but I've read enough about when computerization was happening in Chennai, outside the LIC building, there were protests. Right? Okay. So we come from there to here, right? So, jobs are going to go away, and, these industry, we are all, going to lose our livelihood. And I'll tell you, some of you would have seen this movie, Moby Dick. In the end of the movie, there's a very telling thing, right? So Moby Dick is all about hunting for, without going to the movie story, it's all about getting the blubber from the whale, the fat which you can melt and use to light your lamps in cities. But then towards the end of the movie, rather at the very last, you will see somebody has invented something else, black stuff that comes out of the ground and which can be used to light lamps, and that stuff was petroleum, right? And with petroleum, the entire whaling industry went for a toss. That was the most predominant industry at that point in time. And there was ships and specialized people all around, which just went. So transformation has always happened in history. This is not new. But humans have always adapted, and then people have gone from. So the people who did whaling have probably gone on to work in petroleum rigs or oil rigs. So the point here is. Humans are never going to be replaced, no matter how much of technology is going to come. No matter what advancements happen in technology, there are certain things that only humans can do. What is important is to reskill yourself and make sure that you are being continually relevant. So the days where you had a career, let's say you studied law and you said that I will be a lawyer for the rest of my life. I studied medicine and be a doctor for the rest of my life, or I studied business and I'll do business for the rest of my life. No, those lifelong careers are going to change. You will probably have to reinvent yourself if you're an individual, or even if you're a business, you'll have to reinvent yourself and then be agile enough to change every 10 years or 15 years as the requirement can come up. So that is what people need to do, and not worry about losing jobs. You will lose jobs if you refuse to change.
Right. So Prashant, what I've understood from you is that we have to upscale our digital knowledge. Technology is a way forward. Efficiency is what we're looking at, not the job losing is the concern right now. That's a wrong notion. People are carrying it, in my opinion. Last, I want to ask something. This is a concerned mother talking. These kids are getting hooked on to so many various game applications. Isn't it worrying? It's like, isn't it addictive? Like, how do you deal with all this? That's another side of technology which has knocked our door. What do you do about it? What do you have to say about it?
Absolutely. No, I think this has happened again. No, I would say this has happened. So when there was a time when there were no TVs even in homes, right? I still remember the time when we got the first TV in our home, and Doordarshan used to come on at 6 o'clock in the evening or something like that. And until then, there was no TV, so you all used to go out and play. So and parents at that time used to worry, my kids are sitting at home watching this box, black and white box, and they're not going to run or play or talk to friends. So no, this is going to happen. Every change, so there are every change, the way I like to look at it is every change has two sides. There is disruption and there is opportunity. Or there is disruption, negative impact, and there is a positive impact. So the positive impact is that if not for tech, none of the students would have, or even for us for the matter, would have been able to get connected. Imagine this COVID pandemic hit us maybe 25 years back. There's no way any of us could have had any semblance of normal life. There's no way education for students could have been done. So tech has enabled a lot of these activities. But yes, you're absolutely right. Tech has also created, a lot of undesirable side effects, which I think is, comes as part of the baggage. Right, a delicious brownie is going to come with an addition to your waistline. So, yeah. So there is a plus and there is a minus, but you got to see how you manage both the changes. And the good part is tech is also coming out with means to control some of these effects from happening. So if you've seen all your phones today, if you update to the latest iOS or Android, it'll come with the screen time and features which help you to keep a little more focus on your life. There are today in office applications, right, like Zoom, there are meditation apps that are plugged into these meeting tools which help you to focus better. So tech is creating problems, no doubt. But I would say it solves more problems than it creates, and I'm sure we will come across a way to solve the associated issues as well. I will leave it at the brownie, Ranjana.
Right. Thanks, Prashant. But last, I want you to share to the audience about Microsoft Award, which your company have been receiving it. So please share 2 lines on that before I hand over it to Saurabh.
All right. No, so. No, it's like this, right? All I would say is, when we started out first in business, we attended our first, business conference in Bangalore. I still remember that, and there on the stage, a lot of people were receiving awards, and I called back my co-founder partner Nagaraj, and I told him, you know what, one day we should also be on stage receiving awards, and we need to put ourselves in a position of excellence where we can do it. And all I could say is that we worked really hard for it. And coming from a small city like Coimbatore, which was literally not even on the tech map at that point in time, and then branching out into a city like Bangalore, and then making an impact in a much larger city as a small town boy, going there and doing. All I would say is, again, it's not about tech. It's just about certain basics. we were extremely focused on making sure that we serve customers well, right? And one thing that we really take to heart is customer experience. We just, like the example I gave you, Ranjana, earlier, as to how a business owner has to keep his or her eyes close to the ears close to the ground and eyes on customers and other internal issues. We kept our laser focus on our customers. Two, we had good people and we took extremely good care of those people. And when these two things happen, then I think business or growth was natural. I wouldn't say that we started out with a plan to end here. We couldn't see 20 kilometers out in the future. We went 1 kilometer, we could see 1 more kilometer further, but we just kept going on the same path, and eventually, I think it reached a place where, it seems like a good person. And not that we've done a lot of things, there's a lot more we could have done. There's a lot of wheel reinvention that happened because none of us were experienced. We started this out of college, but we enjoyed the journey. We continue to enjoy it even today, and I think that's important. That's an important aspect in making sure that you grow your business. If you don't enjoy your work, if you don't come into work with a spring in your step every day, then you're not setting up yourself for success.
Thanks.
That's all I would want to share.
Thanks, Prashant. All the best to you.
Thank you.
I think audience will also have their questions. I think after Saurabh finishes, we'll take those questions.
Sure.
Over to you, Saurabh. He'll be in conversation with Mr. Manu Khera, digital transformation and its impact.
Yeah, thank you, Ranjana, and thank you, Nitin. I think we heard quite a bit about various things, but I think what we want to hear from Manu is what is going to impact on the top line of the enterprise. I mean, nobody does anything, any transformation, any digital or any otherwise, if there's no top line. So, Manu, what do you think? How do you set the objectives, measure KPIs and deliverables for a digital transformation project? Hello?
Oh yeah, sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, so the key objective has to be the increase in the top line for any digital transformation project. And in our case, it translates into the productivity per salesperson. So if a salesperson is doing 1 lakh of revenue per month, the kind of KPI we fix is it should be 1.2 lakhs a month. That is the primary KPI. Then there are secondary KPIs. It's like what is the offtake per customer, or like billing per customer, or in case of FMCG or consumer trade, what is the billing per store? Then it is if you're the direct sales organization, what is your conversion rate? So if you're getting 100 leads, how many are you converting? Another key KPI is what is the time spent with customers. So let's say a salesperson is spending 8 hours a day. So we recommend at least 5 hours out of that should be spent with the customer for any kind of transformation to happen or impact on the top line to happen. And our app actually measures the time spent with customer and gives a very good report on how and where the time was spent. In fact, so we also have a time versus revenue analysis. So if you spent 4 hours with the customer in a month, and if it's given you only 4,000 rupees of revenue, the time to revenue ratio is low, and there's something wrong you are doing. But if you are another customer, you have spent 4 hours and you got 40,000 revenue. That's where so that kind of KPIs are kind of measured. Number of visits to a customer, the customer references that you got. So all of these KPIs are measured, and that's what finally drives the transformation and the impact on the top line of the company.
Great. Yeah, I can understand that, because there's no point in doing any digital transformation. You can't make money out of it, right? You have to have some benefits. So, so what are the key challenges being faced when you do a rollout for a digital transformation for a company?
Yeah, so the challenges are huge, and one can write a book on the challenges. But to summarize, as everybody has said, the key challenge is the mindset of the entire team who's involved in the transformation. And in our case, the challenges become even higher, because these are salespersons who have been working for donkey's years the conventional way. They are used to, doing it without any kind of digital reporting. The second challenge is that, see, today our app runs on at least 1,000 different models of mobile phones, and testing our app on 1,000 different models is a huge challenge, because somewhere the app will not, the fun function will not work on a particular model. That is the fear we have. So the kind of rigorous testing is a big challenge. Another challenge is the network, and especially in smaller cities, the networks are often very they become low bandwidth or no bandwidth kind of scenarios. The app has to still function seamlessly, where it stores data offline and then sync the data when you get into better network. Another challenge is most of the users in our case are not very tech savvy, not very educated. Typically, most of them are 12th. They have not done their graduation. And so the app has to be very idiot proof, very simple UI UX, but at the same time, the simplicity of UI UX should not compromise on the power or the depth of the application. So that is the challenge. The app interface has to be simple yet powerful. Another challenge is language. I mean, we find in many states of India, and we also deployed outside India. So you go to Thailand, now they want it in Thai language. You go to Kerala, they will, when you do a training program for them, they say, no, we don't want English, we want it in Malayalam. So the whole UI has to be in their local language. So another challenge is that the company is able to at least have some kind of control over their direct employees, but there are off-role employees, and then there are channel partners. In fact, almost 70% of our app is used by channel partners. Now, channel partner is in no direct control of the company. You can't enforce something on a channel partner. Channel partner is an independent business of their own. But the challenge is how to kind of get the channel partner to use the app, because if he doesn't use, the whole cycle gets broken. So the kind of solution there is incentivize the channel partner to use the app, make it useful for the channel partner, so the channel partner feels that he is going to gain by doing more business by using the app. So channel partner is not in any direct control of the company. Salary nahi milega agar app nahi use karoge. So you got to say that tell the channel partner that this app is going to help you increase your business, and only then will the channel partner adopt the app. So these are the kind of various diverse kind of challenges we face while we roll out the kind of a digital transformation project. And it is maybe there are projects where there are 2,000 users across the country, and each having different mobile phones. Some are even low-end mobile phones like a Android 4.4 model 2014, and the app has to work seamlessly on that phone too, and it should work as good as it works on a iOS 14.5 iPhone 12. So you got to manage experience across the diverse set of devices.
So basically, you are saying the biggest challenge would start from the mindset to the kind of people who are going to use be part of the digital transformation for the company, to actually the hardware they are going to use. So there are multiple challenges across different. So it might be very easy for an IT company to be digitally transformed, like we all have done. But I think I can understand what can happen on a mobile sales force all across the country. So you have worked with many enterprises. So why don't you give us an example? You worked with many enterprises like Asian Paints, Philips, Symphony, Syntex, and so on and so forth. So why don't you give us a successful transformation of the business through digital transformation, which you might have done?
Yeah. So I'll take a few case studies which are very recent and which have happened in this lockdown phase, the COVID times. So one such transformation we did was for Philips. So here, while the whole country was under lockdown, a lot of rural India was still working. So they diverted a lot of manpower and a lot of sales teams to the rural areas. I mean, that was somewhere in May 2020 when part of rural India was opened up first. And there they targeted villages. So they set up a target that we'll have minimum one dealer in every village, and we'll generate minimum 5,000 rupees of business from every village of India. That was the target scope of the project. And so we were given the brief. So the app, we mapped all the villages of India on the map, and each salesperson was allotted village. I mean, n number of villages, 50, 100 villages, and he had to travel. Most of them had a bike or a car. And so we had to kind of daily report the coverage by village on a map for the top management, where somebody sitting in Gurgaon could see, if he wants to zoom into, let's say Gujarat, and he zooms into Bhavnagar. So he sees how many villages in Bhavnagar have already been covered, how much kind of business has come from Bhavnagar. Now, it would, the way we plotted it was that each village, we gave a color code. So if the color code was red, means the village is not visited. If the color code became yellow, that means village is visited, but no business got. The color code green means if the village is visited and we have got an order more than 5,000 rupees. So I mean, that was the kind of color coding, and he could see the whole thing on a map by district, by state, and they monitored the whole project. And the another challenge was, okay, once they got an order, what do we do? How do we execute the order? So this order had to be kind of passed on to the nearest dealer, nearest Philips authorized dealer, who would be maybe 100 kilometers away, 50 kilometers away. So that order had to be executed, and then the proper notification had to go to the village, kind of what they call sub dealer, that your order is being shipped today. I mean, the way you get Amazon notifications, so that he knows when he's going to get the material. So tracking the deliveries was also done using the app, where the salesperson would get the notification, the dealer would get the notification. And so the entire project was, appreciated by the global CEO of Philips, and I have an appreciation letter signed by him, by the global CEO of Philips, for this particular project. Another
Great.
interesting project is the one we did for Symphony. So Symphony, what their manufacturing process is, that by March, every March they manufacture 1 million coolers, which they sell over April, May, June. So they, to get kind of advantages of scale, they do a single manufacture of 1 million coolers. So as of 31st March, they were sitting with an inventory of 1 million, and the whole country was in lockdown. So they didn't know what to do. So then we got a brief from them to do a kind of a digital LMS. So here's how it worked. So there was a campaign run on Facebook, a lead generation campaign on Facebook, and this lead would flow into our LMS, lead management system, and this lead would flow to their sales team, which was all India, based on the PIN code. So that fellow gets a notification on his mobile and immediately calls up the customer. So within 15 minutes of the lead, the customer would get a call from the Symphony salesperson, and post the call, he would try to close the sale on the phone itself, because there was a lockdown. There was no face-to-face or anything. And once the customer would confirm the order, that order would now flow to the Symphony dealer, because the salesperson doesn't have any stocks. I mean, the stock is lying with the dealer. And then the dealer would deliver the material. So there were times when the lockdown would open for 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day, and that's when they used to manage. The dealer would typically be in 2 or 3 kilometers of the customer. So they would manage to somehow deliver, although deliveries were a challenge, but they were managing deliveries. So using this entire process, we managed to deliver almost 1 lakh coolers just in the month of May 2020. So that was something appreciated by the CEO, Achal Bakheri. He appreciated the kind of digitization which was done, because of which it was possible. And that was another very successful project, which was again done in COVID times. Another project was with Asian Paints during lockdown last year. They were all sitting at home twiddling their thumbs, and they decided that why don't we get into health and hygiene products. So Asian Paints is typically a paint company, but their entire sales teams, which was lying idle, and their capital, they had huge capital lying idle. So they allocated 100 crore budget to kind of launch a health and hygiene product, which included things like sanitizers and it surface cleaners, toilet cleaners. So all the entire product range was designed keeping COVID in mind. And there again, when it opened up, and at least the Kirana stores were under the essential services. So if Kirana stores were open, and their salespeople could not go to the paint shops because paint shops were closed. So the same team started going to Kirana shops and placing their product. And it was a challenge because there was a team not used to the kind of FMCG Kirana store model. So, again, the challenges there was mapping about 1 million Kirana stores across India, making beat plans, managing inventory, managing delivery. So that was another project. And I think just last month, I got the data that today they are clocking almost 5 crore a month on this segment, on this new product segment, and has now become a kind of a key feature project for Asian Paints now, this particular health and hygiene segment.
Great.
So these are some of the kind of experiences and case studies of actual live digital transformation projects.
Fantastic. I think this is really, I mean, companies, what you have done must be really in a COVID times. I think it's really commendable. And the kind of things that we hear now, from various people, and especially what we heard from you, with the real live examples, is amazing. And I think digital transformation is going to affect all the time, everywhere, with everybody, and things are going to move just forward, not backward. I think we have covered most of the subjects, so I hand over back to Piali for the audience questions. If there are any, I think we can take one or two because we are way out of time. So, Piali, up to you.
Sure. I'll request Nidhi to have a look if there are any questions or not. I think we have tried to include most of the questions.
Yes, we have almost included. Yeah. I could not, but there were few questions that we have already received, through the registrant. There's one of the very interesting question. I think we can hear, the valuable insights, 30 second sense from all these speakers. So there's a question: at which stage SME should think about digital transformation and how to ensure its feasibility with the cost effectiveness, cost involved? So I would request all the speakers, if you can share 30 seconds your inputs on this.
All right, if I can go first.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, the stage to consider digital is when you start the company. That's it, one line.
Thank you, that was very valid.
That is very valid, sir.
Mr. Manu, would you like to add anything from
Yeah, so I agree with Prashant. When you are conceiving a project, when you are visualizing a project, you have to think digital. So right at the design stage, your entire structure and the thought process has to be digital. But however, for a company which is already into business and is currently following the analog methods, it has to be today, and it has to be phased out. I mean, overnight you can't boil the ocean. So they have to roll it out in a phased way. But it has to be today. You cannot wait for tomorrow. Otherwise, you will be you may soon become obsolete.
Very true. Thank you so much, Mr. Manu. Mr. Atul, yeah.
I agree with what Mr. Manu and Prashant said. It is a mindset. So digital is a mindset, and it is going to stay for sure. So the time is now, and time cannot be ever. Yeah. So we have to go with that thought process, and then if we go with that thought process, we can always make it happen. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, all the speakers, for sharing your insights. So on behalf of all the three chapters,
Nidhi, I have one question, please.
Sure. Please. Yeah.
This is Rakesh Kumar.
Yeah, please.
Chartered member from Coimbatore. I have a question for Manu, because most of the SMEs actually are facing problem as what to select, where to select, So Manu was telling that, 4 pillars, as we've been talking, that manufacturing and sales and ERP. Manu, can you please tell, for the benefit of MSMEs, that what kind of a website where they can go and they can get this kind of a services which you're talking about? Thank you, Manu.
No, so I did not perfectly understand your question. You're looking for a website where you can get what services? Are you talking ERP services or?
No, you said 4 pillars are there, for MSME.
Yeah.
So for each pillar, can you just tell the website, including your marketing, which you are a very specialist, MSME.
So let's say if you are referring to the products in the market for let's say finance and manufacturing, of course SAP is for larger companies, but for MSMEs Tally would be a good product to adopt. And for CRM and sales, my own company has a product, but otherwise you have salesforce.com. And
नहीं मनु आपकी अपनी कंपनी का बता दीजिए.
हाँ, तो my own company, so our product is called Super Sales. So it is a sales automation application. With
what is the website? Can we make a note of it? What is the website?
Yeah, I will just type it in the message here.
Okay, great.
I'll just type it in the message.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rakesh and Mr. Manu. Are there any other question? Because
no, thank you, Nidhi.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So on behalf of all the 3 chapters, we thank our eminent speaker, Mr. Atul Anand, Mr. Prashant Subramanian, Mr. Manu Khera, for the valuable insights on digital transformation, the processes, the disruption, the culture, the future, human and digital, and sharing, with the measures, KPIs, and with the platform, the companies which they are facing challenges, and with the platforms, what they add value and advantage to the current processes. And we thank our presidents, Mr. Nitin Sachdeva, President TiE Nagpur, Ms. Ranjana Singhal, President TiE Coimbatore, and Mr. Saurabh Mehta, President TiE Ahmedabad, for wonderful moderation and support. And thank you everyone for joining today's session. The recording will be available with the respective chapters with the EDs, and it will be available at YouTube handle. Maybe by tomorrow, you could be able to refer the recordings with the details which we have shared. And thank you everyone for joining the call. Thank you so much.
Thank you Nitin, thank you Saurabh, thank you speakers Atul, Prashant and Manu, and thank you all the EDs.